reopen Colorado protesters who jeered Governor Polis one day cheer him the next as he announces he's reopening the state.
Do you think that the rally moved the needle?
Absolutely. Do you?
Widespread testing was one of the state's requirements to reopen. The governor's downplaying that need now. The man who makes the models of the spread of COVID-19 in our state says they didn't make a model without widespread testing. And he says the second surge of the virus here will potentially be larger, but more manageable than the first. Some Coloradans are getting ready to go back to work Monday. Let's talk about what employees should expect and what employers can require. And as the stay-home order is lifted, kids declare their Employee of the Month for the work-from-home era. Let's hear it for all the parents doing double duty. Next. The governor calls him Colorado's Dr. Fauci. He is the man in charge of modeling what COVID-19 is most likely to do in our state. Dr. Jonathan Samet leads a team of scientists and researchers who are exploring the various scenarios. So we're headed into a scenario starting Sunday where Colorado begins to reopen without the widespread COVID-19 testing that state health leaders had previously said was a requirement for reopening. And today, Dr. Samet told us that they have not put together a scenario that did not include that widespread testing. In their best case scenario for Colorado, they had widespread testing. They also had continued stay-home requirements for folks who are at risk, as well as isolation of positive cases, social distancing, and people wearing masks. Even then, of course, any kind of reopening of Colorado is going to cause a second surge of cases.
I think that it could be bigger than what we just saw, but coming more slowly because of the management. So perhaps the number of people would be the same, larger, but it would be in a fashion that doesn't peak quite so quickly would be the goal.
Regarding the timing of reopening, Dr. Samet says all of their models, which again all have widespread testing involved in them, didn't show a big difference between reopening now versus 2 or 4 weeks from now. So we're still trying to get a clear answer from the governor's office about how testing was dropped as a requirement, but some additional data today could help explain the situation. As we've talked about here, state leaders may have decided that widespread testing, what they hope for, is just so far off that we cannot sustain the economic damage of waiting for it. Take a look at what my colleague Chris Vanderveen put together this afternoon on short notice. Bear with us because our graphics department is also working from home right now, so this is what you get. But it shows you the rate of testing in Colorado, and what Chris Vanderveen's pointing out is the rate of testing has flatlined for 4 weeks. So it's entirely possible that the governor and others saw that we're not just lacking the widespread testing they hope for, we aren't moving the testing numbers in that direction, and that could be one reason why they decided to reopen now. Do not be fooled, though, if you hear that Colorado has reported its largest single-day increase in death. We've told you how those numbers tend to trickle in late days and weeks after the fact from counties and municipalities. But 37 deaths have been added to the total. 486 Coloradans are now known to have died from the disease. 851 people are still in the hospital. Discharges have slowed down in the last few days, 97 in the last 24 hours, and we continue to just creep along on those testing numbers, about 49,000 so far. We're getting a slew of questions from you about what it is going to be like to go back to work on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever your employer says it's time to come back. Questions about what's allowed and what can be required. Our Marshall Zellinger has some answers.
Traffic is light. Offices are dark. It's been this way since the state's stay-at-home order, but we're about to transition to safer at home, where non-critical businesses will be allowed to open with 50% in-person work.
This is where all of us should be thinking about, protective gear at work, purchasing it now, having it ready, the masks, things like that.
Kelly Bruff is president of the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce, which is helping businesses prepare for when cubicles can start filling up again with employees.
Where you work, your workspace, if there's 4 people in it, you may see 1 or 2 at a time instead of 4.
What's going to be the hardest thing for employers to handle?
Maybe the greatest challenge is continuing because of people with young children who have nowhere for their kids is trying to figure out what can work both for the family and for the employer.
If you have fewer than 500 employees and you have an employee who has to stay at home and take care of their kid, and you are not going to allow them to telework, then you have to pay 2/3 of their pay for up to 12 weeks.
Lori Ray works at Employers Council, which is a portion of its website dedicated to this topic. Here are some questions you've asked us that we asked Employers Council. What happens if I'm high risk and my employer won't let me work from home? Can I get unemployment for quitting?
It would all depend on whether or not the unemployment division were to decide if the employee was at fault.
Another question, can your employer ask you if you're sick?
Well, they can ask questions about your health. They can take your temperature. What they cannot do is disclose individual information.
So what if someone you work with tests positive for COVID-19? Do you have a right to know?
An employer would need to let people know that there has been exposure, where that exposure took place, when that took place, but not disclose who was ill.
It's really about fairness, and whatever benefit is given to one employee has to be given to another. So Kyle, if certain employees are being allowed to work from home and you want to work from home, your employer can't tell you, no, you have to come in. They have to be fair across the board to all employees.
And then you get into real sticky situations when it comes to people's personal bodies in terms of what they're wearing and what they're doing. Like can employers force everybody to wear a mask if they think that's smart?
According to Lori Ray, that can be a provision, that you can require masks and PPEs. Because I was asking the reverse, like if an employee wanted to wear it, but the employer was like, no, could that happen? The employee has the right to wear it if they want.
Before long, Marshall, you and me are going to be back across that cubicle. If you've never been in the 9 newsroom, Marshall and I face one another at a distance of less than 6 feet, but I imagine that we will scooch apart from one another as not to trade as many respiratory droplets.
I get the window still.
All right, I get pushed away from the window and you get the window. All right, thank you, Marshall. One of the most striking things as we have moved along the course of the COVID-19 pandemic in Colorado is how many of the deaths have been centered in Colorado's nursing homes. And it's led to questions to us from families wondering if their loved ones might not be better off at home, if that's possible. Tonight, our Mark Salinger looks at the complications of moving older Coloradans away from COVID-19 hotspots, but away from the care they need.
Each life lost to COVID-19 has a story.
It was difficult for us, but more difficult for her since she was isolated.
Jim Wilson says his mother Joyce was staying at the Orchard Park Healthcare Center in Greenwood Village. She was getting rehab there after a fall, until Jim says the facility told him she had completed the program and could go home.
So we wanted to assure that she could exist in the environment they were releasing her to, and after an hour, they assured me that was the case.
Just one day after she was allowed to leave, Jim says his mother was admitted to the hospital. He says the hospital told him multiple times she tested positive for COVID-19.
She died 7 days after being admitted to the hospital.
Jim doesn't know if the outcome of his mother's battle would have been any different if she had stayed inside the healthcare center. The Orchard Park facility has not reported any cases of COVID-19 and did not respond to a request for comment today. It's unclear how and where Joyce contracted the virus.
What needs to be considered is their underlying healthcare need, and can that healthcare need be met in a different setting?
Doug Farmer is the president of the Colorado Healthcare Association. The state leaves the decision to remove someone from a nursing home or rehab facilities in the middle of a pandemic to individual families.
That's a personal decision.
Daphne Jean has been getting the question a lot. She owns Oasis Senior Advisors that helps families find the right place for loved ones.
As long as the individual doesn't need any support in their home and they're able to stay in their home without anyone coming in and out, maybe they are safer at home.
At least 138 people have died from COVID-19 inside long-term care facilities in Colorado. Each person leaves behind others who now mourn.
If their loved ones are in a nursing home, they need to know their physical and emotional state. They also need to know their COVID state.
For Next, I'm Mark Salinger.
The state has not identified any COVID-19 cases at the Orchard Park facility. State guidance to nursing homes does say that they're allowed to transfer patients around to separate the sick from the healthy. A judge in Denver has denied a resident's challenge to the city's stay-home order. A man took it to court saying that the city was unconstitutionally violating his right to go to church and to socialize with his friends and to make a living. A federal judge said that the city is acting legally. Even the organizer of the Reopen Colorado rally at the Capitol over the weekend admits that he was surprised when the very next day Governor Polis outlined his plan to reopen Colorado next week. Steve Peck of Highlands Ranch believes that that protest impacted the governor's decision. We spoke today.
I like a lot of what I heard, and I sense that the governor's listening to those people at the rally yesterday and or 2 days ago now. And what I sense is a willingness to cooperate and to hear us out. So I'm cautiously optimistic. The governor's a savvy politician, and he wants to be responsive. He also has to look at his own state budget. Without any revenue coming in, without any consumption, the tax revenue is going to be way down. So this is a problem that's cooking now that will show up much later, and he's going to have to tackle that. So he knows that, and so I think he's negotiating in good conscience, and he's balancing competing demands. How do I preserve the safety of Coloradans with their need to make money and make ends meet?
I'm curious, what do you think would have happened if Governor Polis had not immediately come out after the rally and announced it's happening Sunday, we're starting to lift the lid?
Well, I didn't expect that. I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I was shocked, actually. I was shocked. I was talking with a lot of other folks, and we were prepared to do this again and again and again, because and again, this isn't necessarily my story, but many people don't have the luxury of waiting for another 2 weeks or another 3 weeks.
Peck says he would understand if the virus changes course and new restrictions are needed. You can hear the rest that and the rest of our full unedited conversation on the next YouTube channel.
You wouldn't think a guy going into the Navy would want a going-away cruise, but that's what Joseph Ruiz had planned before the pandemic. Plans change, but family finds a way to make it special. And who is the employee of the month at your house? Gather the kids around the TV for a lesson in appreciating mom and dad. Next.
A third name will join John Hickenlooper's and Andrew Romanoff's names on the U.S. Democratic primary ballot for U.S. Senate. Michelle Frigno-Warnick, community activist, will be on the ballot as well. She won a court challenge saying that the pandemic interfered with her signature collection. It is possible that social justice advocate Lorena Garcia will also be on that ballot. She's challenging some invalid signatures and saying that she'll go to court with a pandemic-related challenge if that's what's necessary.
Hi there, I'm Kathy Sabin. Warm today with isolated evening storms. Temperatures in the mid-60s, some 70s on the map. We're going right back in that direction tomorrow. The upper air disturbance is crossing southern Colorado will bring a bit of convective activity tonight to the Front Range and eastern plains, a bit of snow to the Front Range foothills. But tomorrow we're mild and dry with temperatures back close to 70. Isolated storms early, then clearing. Our low at 40. Tomorrow mostly sunny, high near 70. 40% chance of thunder showers on Thursday. Right now, Friday looks to be the coolest day of the week. Temperatures in the 50s with a good chance for rain. But the weekend, isolated storms with warmer weather Saturday, and then into the 70s we go for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, close to 80.
Kevin Durant was the philosopher poet. Kevin Durant was the first to say that mom is the real MVP, and kids across Colorado certainly know that after watching moms and dads pull double duty over the stay-home order time. Monique DeVille's kids certainly know that better than most. Monique likes to say that she is the principal and the teacher and the cook and the janitor at School DeVille. Her boys, Lucas and Wade, said they especially appreciated her washing all the dishes by hand over the last couple of months because the dishwasher's been broken. So the boys presented their mother with a homemade award for hard work and excellence.
She was just doing dishes, and then my brother just started asking me to get stuff, and I didn't question anything, so I just got paper, scissors, a Sharpie, and some tape.
You know, moms, it made me feel really proud that they were so thoughtful and, appreciated. So it was nice because it's been, a lot more work for all of us.
I love that. That is legitimately the sweetest thing. And I love that they just taped the phone up there. Monique had some advice for all of us parents who are a bit stressed out by juggling work and parenting at home. She said, just enjoy the extra time with your kids and know that extra challenges will come with it.
His ceremony was supposed to be a low-key, socially distanced affair.
I didn't expect this. I was expecting, like, my mom and dad to drive me down there. Then all of a sudden they were saying something about a caravan. I was like, oh, cool, like, 2 cars.
A proper send-off for the latest Coloradan to join the Navy. Next.
Joseph Ruiz had all kinds of plans to celebrate his entrance into the U.S. Navy. Family cruise? Canceled. Going away party? Had to be scrapped. The family witnessing his swearing in en masse? Not allowed right now. But families? They persevere. Our Byron Reed has the story.
Hi, Chloe.
For most families, part of sharing a bond
we got a big family, and they're all here to support him.
is being there to help celebrate life's milestones.
I know everything I do means something to them, and I hope they know everything that they do means something to me.
But he's always been amazing, and that's his nickname, Amazing Joseph. That's what everyone calls him.
If anyone wants to decorate the cars, they didn't.
Joseph Ruiz says he's always been up for challenges. It's a connection he shares with his grandfather.
Like my grandpa, he served in the Army, so it's just a really family connection he passed on.
So last year, Ruiz also signed up to serve his country by joining the United States Navy.
I've always been really good at whatever I tried, so I was like, I want to just try to do the very hardest thing in the military, try to be Navy SEAL.
And today,
Also, streamers all around the car. We got American flags.
his family and friends are giving him a send-off. In a parade of cars to the Navy recruiting office to drop him off and wave goodbye.
We couldn't have a big old party or anything like that for him because, the coronavirus. This is my last day being able to see my family. Tonight I'll be in the hotel, then I'll ship off tomorrow.
This is another step for him to join the Navy that he's been always talking about it, so it's finally happening for him.
Ruiz says he's grateful for all the love and support,
It touches me in my heart. It just makes me really know how much I mean to them.
proving to him there's no stronger bond than family.
They've been there for every single thing. That's just another accomplishment that they're going to be there for, and I appreciate all the love and support everyone gives me.
For Next, I'm Byron Reed.
Ruiz leaves for boot camp tomorrow. All of Colorado preemptively thanks him for his service. Neighbors who cannot meet at the bar anymore decide that they will build one between them. That bit of American ingenuity and your feedback next. Coloradans' creativity and positivity in this time never fail to impress. Take Cheryl and Gary, who continue to go out to eat because they own an RV. They just take it someplace and have a meal. They had Mexican the other night, romantic dinner by candlelight. The only fault that I can find with their date night is the guy that they decided to bring along on TV as their third wheel. Social distancing guidelines have the bar shut down for the time being, so 2 couples in Aurora, neighbors, decided they would convert their fence into a socially distanced place to grab a drink together. Nikki and Kale live next door to their best friends, and they said they always joked about building a gate between their yards, and it decided that instead they would build a bar. Christian tells me that on Twitter that he got a text from his mother during the program. Text reads, "Tell Kyle Clark it's important to remind people to keep hand washing when they go back to work." Excellent reminder, Christian's mom. I got a note from MJ, who identifies himself as a doctor in northern Colorado, asked whether the lifting of the stay-home order now essentially means that we are surrendering to the assumption that there will be insufficient testing for the next few months. That is a great question, MJ, and it's one that we would love a direct answer from the governor's office on, whether they think we are close or not. Xavier Cotto writes in to say that you can't wear a dotted pocket square with a checked jacket. My apologies. I will see you next time.